So step one, we're gonna need some models. And here I have a clear resin Yoba and an opaque one. Now, these are not really any different, but do note the resin, they're very smooth. Later, we're gonna do an FDM print Yoba. He's got a little texture to him, so we'll have to do some special tricks, but we'll save him for later. So I wanna go ahead and show you some examples of this before we get started. First up, the one we're gonna do today, he's adorable. And I really like his skin. He looks kind of like the mature Yoda on Clone Wars. We got Cool Guy Yoda. He's not done yet. Sweet snowboarder jacket. And then Frosty Yoda. He's got a little ice block he's standing on. We'll at least do well. And then there's Sith Yoda. Oh my God. Do you see this? Can you see this? How adorable is that? That's adorable. I know right now you're thinking, this looks hard. Well, to be honest, it's not. It's not hard at all. It might seem hard. It's way easier than it looks. We are going to focus on doing things the quick and easy way. They take very little skill, but they are a little step intensive. There are a million better ways to paint models. I'm sure of it. However, these ways we're going to do this are the quickest and the easiest. First thing we have to do, assuming we've done everything right in printing them, is prime them. We're gonna do a really special way of priming that basically kind of paints a lot of the model for us. This kind of priming is called Zenith highlighting. And what ends up happening is we get, if you look at this Yoda here, on the bottom of his face and of him, he's very dark. And towards the top, he's a lot lighter. He's got kind of a natural shadow to him. Now, why would we do this? Because it's fast, easy, and it looks really good. So let me go ahead and show you how to do it. We gotta shake it up. I would like to warn you, however, normally you don't want to spray paint indoors. At the very least, you want to have the door open with some fans blowing through. That way you don't die. Now, I want you to see this. And I want the lighting to be good so you can really see it. So I'm going to do it inside. Don't anybody freak out. Now pay attention. I'm only going to do a couple of these in front of the camera because this is dangerous. Don't spray paint next to your already painted models. Okay, don't do that. I want you to listen to the sound this makes. That's how you know you're going to do it right. We're only going to do just tiny quick bursts. We keep everything moving. Don't let the paint build. So here he is. And we want to stay about a foot or up to 18 inches away. Too close, it will blow him out. Too far away and the paint will dry before it hits the model and it'll create a dust effect. We super don't want that. I'm sure there's sometimes when you do, but most of the time you don't. So let's don't. So just take a listen. And we're getting that on there very thin. It's going to take a minute to build all the way up. With a clear, we can really see where it's not happened yet. But don't hammer it in there. Wait a second. Go at it a second time if you have to. Now, when we're doing the black or the darkest color, we want to kind of pretend that there's a sphere around the model, and we're keeping the spray on that sphere. We want to get different angles at this thing and really get, in this case, each and every little crevice. We've got them both painted black, and we're going to start highlighting. And I know what you're thinking, why did we paint it black if we want it a lighter color? You're going to see that right here, right now. And it's going to be very fast and very apparent. For the grayscale highlight, I'm immediately going to move to gray. Who'd have thought? Don't forget to shake it. This is critical. Before, we were operating on a sphere where we were coming at it from every angle. This time, I want you to imagine that there's a halo above the model right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to stay on that. We're going to keep the nozzle on that halo angled 45 degrees down. We're not going to go below it, and we can go above it, but we don't need to. Okay, and right away, what you see there is a shadow. It's on there. I'm going to spend a little more time and work this up a little more properly so it's nice and even. But that was easy. Boom, a model with a shadow. Took like a couple and then that was it. Pretty neat. Once we've done the halo, we want to stop and take a second and maybe break that halo rule. Maybe come down. I unconsciously did it when I did his little hand here. Anything that's hanging too low, we want to light it up. So we're going to come down and hit it directly. Keep that to a minimum though, otherwise we lose the effect. You really just want it on things that are important. Hands, faces, maybe a weapon or a tuba if your model has a tuba. If it's an important part of the model, you really want to make sure it's highlighted. And so in that case, you can break the rules. So here, the bottom of his face, I want that to still have some color on it. And later, we're going to use a translucent paint. And if there's only black under it, it won't really work. So I'm going to come in just in front of his face and hit it. Not from below it, though. I'm still going to make sure I stay slightly above the middle. Okay, there we go. And you can see that pretty decently. We're going to move immediately into the highlight, gray sear. This is an off-white, and it's pretty good. With this and our other off-white, you do need to be a little bit closer to the model. Really stay like no more than 12 inches away as you're spraying it. Before, we were on a halo, and we were coming around the model. This time, I want you to imagine that there's a cylinder encasing our model and it has a flat top. What I want you to do is keep the nozzle so that it's always on that top, that plane. We're not going to angle it. We're only going to come straight down. Now we can move, if this was a big model, we could move around the top. And that would be cool. And then now right away, boom, there he is. Not only is he shadowed, but he's got some lighting to him. Again, with this one, sometimes you need to break the rule to really pop a part out. I need to make sure I get that little cheek right there. I got it pretty good over there, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to get it again. Just be really careful. Only a with the monochromatic Zenith highlight, we still do the gray because that helps us blend the colors, blend the shadow. Without it, the shadows will be a little too harsh. So we're going to do the same halo thing. Now, we're going to switch over to our Wraith Bone. This is an off-white beige. We're going to hit him just from the top. We're doing the cylinder thing again, the top of the cylinder. Now, while the paint is still wet, we're going to grab our color. Any color is going to work here. This time, we're back to the cylinder. Instead of the top, we're going to do the sides. We're going to come in on the side of the cylinder, that edge. We have our gradient now, but you can see he's not as lit as he was before. So again, with the paint still wet, and this will work if it's already dried, but it's a little better if it's still wet. We're going to come in from the top again. Okay, there we go. Pretty all right. Actually, I hate it. There we go. I went back and I got a little more green on there. Now that's going to matter later because when we as we paint this, we're not really going to use any opaque paint. We're really just using translucent paint. And if that green is under it already, there'll be a lot more green in our final green. We'll be green on green, and that's good. Depending on what Yoda you're going to do, they're useful for two different things. They're both cool. They're both good. However, depending on what you're going for, that's going to dictate which one of these you want to do. This one right here, while a little easier, is a cool highlight. It's a little less lifelike. Not that he's dead looking or anything, but he's just not as warm and cuddly as the other kind of highlight. In fact, if you want to do something like this Ice Yoda, this is where you would start. He's still lit and you can see that highlighting in him, but he's not teeming with life and energy. He's actually freezing, but apparently he likes that sort of thing. Now, the other one, the warm monochromatic highlight, this one is how you get more of an effect like this, where he is lifelike and cuddly and warm, and he has that energy to him, that vibrance. That's called Zenith highlighting, just to remind you. I'm gonna put together another video just about Zenith highlighting and all the little tricks. We're gonna cover it a lot more in depth later. However, I don't have that ready right now, but I might one day, and then the link, I guess I can put it here. For the next part of this, we're gonna do something called dry brushing. Dry brushing is easy and it's quick. You're gonna need a few things. The first and most important is a very soft brush. A makeup brush will do just fine. The softer it is, the better. Something to smoosh paint around on. Number one, this is just some random card with, you see how shiny it is? It's got some kind of coating on there, and that works really good for this. Next, we're gonna need a paper towel. It's called dry brushing for a reason. I know. Paint scoopers and some paint. Niblet green. Your handy paint scraper and scrape some of this out. Put it down. That is entirely too much. However, I'll survive. What we're looking for is a color that is brighter than our base color, which this almost is, but it's not. So we're going to need to mix it with something. In this particular one, I like to use this Hellion green. Get our handy dandy super paint scraper out, and we just get some of this. Smoosh these together. What we want to end up with is a super light green. We use our waxy paper, and we knock it off. We knock a lot of this off. Specifically, we want to knock the clumps out of it. We're going to take our paper towel and knock a lot of this out. We want it so that it's only barely some of it is coming out. We're going to do two of these, just like we did two different colors with the spray paint. On the first one, again, we're coming in from the side. This, I call this left-right. So it's top of one side to the bottom of the other. We don't want to blow away our other colors that we laid down. We're going to leave some of that base coat in there. And you see what this does is it captures just the very raised edges. Now I know what you're thinking. It's weird that the white is down in there like it is, right? Well, later we're going to use a special kind of paint that specifically pools down into recesses like that. So we're not going to worry about it for now. Though I understand, yeah, that's a little weird. Okay, one thing I want to note is avoid jabbing. Don't press into the model. You'll hit it in a recess. And right now, we want to avoid that. We're really just trying to get raised edges, not any recesses, so avoid that. We're going over some of that highlight, and it seems a little counterintuitive, and I get that. But here's the deal, is all paint is at least somewhat transparent. It's a little see-through. It's not completely opaque. So even though it's minute, the green that I just laid down is brighter on the top of this versus the green that's not on the top. Okay? Very subtle, but important, and it really does add a lot. So I just want to blend that out, smooth that up a little bit. It doesn't need to be perfectly smooth, but we don't want a harsh line. And then I like to leave it kind of noisy like this. You'll see later that the paint we put on this is going to kind of filter it. Now that we've got the lighter green in there in place, what we want to do is bring in something really, really bright and bring the edges, just the light catching edges, back out. So we're going to mix up some paint that is basically an off-white with a green hint to it, a green tint. I've already got a little bit of my green, my deeper green down there. Not that that's a very deep green. We're going to reuse that. It's still wet. This one is peroxide white. I'm going to mix this guy together. And we're going to knock that off. So we keep knocking that off. Knocking that off. Get our paper towel out. Now it's just barely coming on. So just going from high to low, not low to high, not left to right. We just want to catch the very most raised edges. Get that little nose, the little parts of the eyelid. And this stuff, if we're doing it right, it's not going to come off very fast. You're going to end up with a lot of little strokes, a lot of little soft strokes. As the paint, kind of dries up and stops coming off, you can press a little harder. Or if you're really trying to force it in somewhere like the tops of these ears, you can press harder. Okay, and then when we do the very top of something like this, we can go to left and right. But we want to barely press down on it. We want to barely we don't want to push it into any of the recesses. Try to go across texture is the best way to say this. Okay. Again, it's a little rough. All dry brushing is, unless you're insanely patient. But later, we're going to filter it down with another kind of paint, and all that's going to go away. In fact, that's our next step. I'm going to go and try to find affiliate links for every one of these paints that I used here today, in case you want to try to reproduce exactly what I've done. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you've never painted before. It is a lot easier to just copy someone. Now, I've got more videos coming. Hopefully you'll stick around and watch them. But here's the deal with the affiliate links, is that I'm filming this during the March 2020 COVID-19 outbreak. And I know a lot of these places have already shut down and stopped producing, so you might not be able to get a hold of them right away. There should be still some up there if you go now, and I'm sure they'll be back soon otherwise. So I'll see you on the next episode. Do that whole like, comment, subscribe thing, and we'll do some more of this.